Hi Year 6, today in Maths we're going to be continuing our work with adding and subtracting fractions, but today we're going to look at some slightly trickier questions and also look at adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Hopefully you've already watched yesterday's maths video, because today we're going to be building on this work when adding and subtracting fractions. Yesterday we had a look at finding the lowest common multiple of two numbers. However, yesterday one of our numbers was a multiple of the other. So for example, when we looked at 3 and 6, 6 was a multiple of 3. Here, 4 and 5, neither of these numbers are multiples of each other. But when we lay out our times tables, we can see that 20 is a multiple of both 4 and 5. So in this example, we can see that the lowest common multiple of 7 and 9 would be 63, which is actually 7 times 9. Have a go at pausing the video and finding the lowest common multiple between these two numbers. Well done if you found that 15 was the lowest common multiple of 3 and 5. So we know that the lowest common multiple of 4 and 3 is 12. Today, neither of the fractions in our question are going to be the same as the common denominator that we find, so we're going to have to change both of our fractions to be out of 12. So let's start with our 2 quarters. We need to work out how we got from 4 to 12. We know that 4 times 3 is 12, so we need to do exactly the same thing to our numerator, and 2 times 3 is 6. Moving on to our 1/3, 3 times 4 is 12, so we need to times our numerator by 4 as well, which makes 4 twelfths. 6 plus 4 is 10, so here our answer is 10 twelfths, and this is equivalent to 5 sixths. Here we have 1/3 plus 4 eighths. Pause the video and have a go. Hopefully you chose the common denominator of 24, because this is the lowest common multiple between 3 and 8. So to get from 3 to 24 you need to multiply by 8, so you need to do the same thing to your numerator, and 1 times 8 is 8. To get from 8 to 24 you need to multiply by 3, so 4 times 3 is 12. 8 plus 12 is 20, so well done if you got 20 over 24. And well done if you managed to simplify to 10 twelfths, or even better to 5 sixths. When adding mixed numbers, we can follow 2 different methods. The first method is partitioning, so we start by adding the 2 whole numbers, 2 plus 1, and then we add our fractions together. Here, our fractions don't have the same denominators, so we must find a common denominator. I'm going to use 15 because it's my lowest common multiple, so I need to change both my fractions. I've times 3 by 5 to get to 15, so I times my numerator by 5. Here I times my numerator by 3. 3 plus 5 is 8, so 8 fifteenths. So altogether with my whole number I've got 3 and 8 fifteenths. Method 2 is turning these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So here I've got 2 lots of 3/3 add 1/3, so that's 7/3, and I've got 1 lots of 5/5 add 1/5, which makes 6/5. But because these fractions do not have the same denominator, again I need to find a common denominator, and I'm going to use 15 as it's the lowest common multiple. So I know that 3 times 5 is 15, so I now have to times the 7 by 5, which makes 35. 5 times 3 is 15, so I need to times the 6 by 3. 35 plus 18 is 53, but this is an improper fraction, so to change to a mixed number, I know that 15 goes into 53 3 times into 45, and there are 8 left over. So I get the same answer here of 3 wholes and 8 fifteenths. So here is another mixed number addition. See if you can follow one of the 2 methods to find the answer. So for method 1, I've only got one whole number, so I've just got a 2 and I don't need to add anything. Adding my fractions, I need to find a common denominator between 4 and 6. I could do 4 times 6, which is 24, however there is a lower common denominator, which is 12. And as this is my lowest common multiple, this is the denominator I'm going to use. So to get from 4 to 12 I need to multiply by 3, so I need to multiply my numerator by 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. Here I've times by 2, so I need to times 5 by 2, which is 10. 6 plus 10 is 16, I've got 16 over 12. I can simplify this to 4 over 3, and then to a mixed number of 1 and 1/3. So for method 2 I can turn this into an improper fraction, so 2 lots of 4 plus 2 is 10, so I've got 10 quarters plus 5 sixths. And again I'm going to use 12 as my common denominator because it's the lowest common multiple between 4 and 6. In method 1 altogether we got 3 and 1/3, so hopefully we get the same answer for method 2. So I've multiplied my numerators by the same thing I multiplied my denominators by, and overall I have 40 over 12. This can be simplified to 3 and 4/12, which is also equivalent to the same as answer 1, 3 and 1/3. So moving on to subtraction, we do exactly the same thing. Here I'm going to use 18 as my common denominator, and to get from 9 to 18 I've times by 2, so 5 times 2 is 10. From 2 to 18 I've times by 9, so 1 times 9 is 9. And then all I do is take away my numerators and I'm left with 1/18. So here is a subtraction to have a go at. Using my common denominator of 28, I've needed to times my 4 by 7, so I need to times my 3 by 7, and this makes 21. I've times my 7 by 4, so I need to times my 2 by 4, and this makes 8. And then I need to do 21, take away 8, and this makes 13. So well done if you got 13 over 28. When doing subtraction with mixed numbers, it's often best to convert them both into improper fractions, because here, although on the left our whole number is bigger, 2 is bigger than 1, our fraction is actually smaller. 1/2 is smaller than 3/5, so we'll not be able to do this without converting. So once they have converted to improper fractions, we can change them to have the same denominator, so we times this by 5. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 by 2 to get to 10, and 8 times 2 is 16. Then we just need to do 25, take away 16, and we get 9/10. So remember, when you're doing subtraction with mixed numbers, sometimes it's possible to partition, but often you need to convert to improper fractions. My top tips for adding and subtracting fractions are: remember to find the lowest common multiple. Remember, whatever you do to the denominator you have to do to the numerator. And when you're adding or subtracting the fractions, the denominators stay the same and you only change the numerators. Great job, Year 6. Keep up the good work.